and Men of the Trees was a large part of his life in probably from about 1980 onwards. And I think it's really appropriate that we're all standing here under the lovely oak trees here, because I believe, from what Tom tells me, it was Dad's idea to have this little oak grove. So it's wonderful that he's kind of returning, I guess, back to this location, something that he nurtured from the very beginning. And another little thing that comes to mind when I think of oak trees is, I remember when Dad first started showing an interest in getting involved in Men of the Trees and that, we used to go around to Lesmurdie House in Lesmurdie, and there's these beautiful oak trees in the garden below Lesmurdie House, the acorns. And as well as putting them into soil and getting them going as seedlings, Dad used to put them into little like knitting bags and make a little present of it, and he would give them to people at Christmas time. So I don't know whether you remember, any of you, getting a Christmas present of acorns. That was something that he used to do, and he felt that you know, it was one way of getting trees planted into the ground, is to give people seeds. What I thought I'd do is just to give you a little brief, I guess, snapshot of Dad's history and how this kind of, where it all began, I guess. So Dad was born in 1930. He had these skills of film called On the Edge of the Forest, and he got a famous man at the time, economist at the time, his name was E.F. Schumacher, to do the commentary on this film. And the film was such a huge success in terms of the horror that we were creating in the southwest by clearing the forests there and denuding them and just leaving total devastation. That I believe the government bought the rights to the film and they quarantined it for 2 years while they actually cleaned up the whole mess of what they were doing. So for a couple of years this film was out of circulation, but you might get a chance to see it at some stage. It's called On the Edge of the Forest, and I do recommend you watch it. It's a real moving movie about I guess the depravity that we can go to in just greed for money, I guess, and the devastation that we did in the southwest. So thankfully we don't see that kind of thing happening now, and I believe that On the Edge of the Forest was a catalyst that started all that off. Anyway, I believe Richard St Barb Baker, whom you all know, saw a viewing of this movie in London, and he became very interested about what was happening in Western Australia, and he contacted Dad, and that's where things sparked off for Men of the Trees. Men of the Trees is a worldwide organisation that had been running for many years up to that point, and was going to extend an ideal time in history when things were happening such that people wanted to rise up and do something about the issue of our denuded land. So that's where Men of the Trees began, and I guess it all started around in the early 80s, and there's just been so many like-minded people such as yourselves that have got involved with it that it's just sparked and grown from there and flourished into a beautiful tree of its own. That's about all I wanted to say about Dad's history. I believe you're having a bit of a dreaming session this afternoon after this gathering, which is something Dad encouraged, I think, people of Men of the Trees to do, to gather once a year and dream big dreams about where they could see things heading in the future. And as I was digging through some of Dad's stuff recently, I came across a little note that he had written here. So these are words from Dad, and I hope you can find some encouragement from them. My heart home is a place like Oxford, not the university, but the whole town. It is spiritual home, a soul place, the comfort of life, meaning, purpose, endeavour, guided by worthy outcomes. Purpose, profound, depth, creative. Humans are creative. They have been given the tools, or is that toils? I'm not sure. They've been given the toils to find solutions to all life's problems. And the challenge is to use them, always being aware of the wake we create. Is it helping or is it harming the course of others? Thanks, Will.
Traditional owners on whose land we stand, and on this occasion recognising also Men of the Trees having a role here in looking after the land as well. What we thought we would like to do now is just provide a time of reflection. Perhaps some of you felt moved or feel moved to just say a few words or a short reflection. It doesn't have to be much, but the airwaves will be open, and and then we'll spread the ashes, and then after that we'll invite you all to cover them over as we finish off with a song. Not that we're going to sing one. I believe someone is here who's brought a guitar today and will be playing some music. So that's the rough order of proceedings. So it's not meant to be structured at all, but just a time of reflection. And yes, thank you all for coming. Lovely to see so many familiar faces as well. An aspiration of we humans, and is one that we're reminded of when admiring trees or are in their presence. So Dad would often take the time to admire nature and see its beauty and reflect on things, so I thought it was really appropriate. Stand firm, grip hard, thrust upward to the skies, bend to the winds of heaven, and learn tranquility. Thanks to Dad, many people, including me, have learnt a truth in this next poem. That's the right one.
I remember King Barb also saying that when he died he'd like to have his ashes spread at the bottom of a great tree, because it nourishes the earth and goes up through the roots, and his spirit would end up in the tree. And I thought that was quite a nice image.
If I can add something, and I was telling Will beforehand, when I first got involved with Men of the Trees in about 92 here, and your dad was a pretty towering figure here and quite intimidating. If anyone first met Barry, I was in awe of him, and I knew I had to get to know him, and he was out weeding this tree. And I've been teaching with Roseanne students. One of them is here today, Jeremy, still looking exactly like he did when he rocked up at 93. And we've been showing the other amazing film that your dad did, which was Week Today, What Tomorrow, which is just still one of the great environmental films ever made. And if anyone hasn't seen it, you need to see it. It's the first film that, to me, fused humour with some extraordinarily powerful and you would think quite sombre messages of environmental destruction and resurrection. And anyway, I thought I'll just go and start chatting to this man, and I genuinely wanted to know how he filmed some of these scenes, and just sitting underneath that tree weeding, and he could see I genuinely loved this film and could see how it was helping students like Jeremy, who had probably never seen a film like that before. And from that point on, we struck up an amazing friendship, and I think a mutual respect and love, and it happened under that tree. And he was such an extraordinary inspiration to me in the work that I do.
Thank you, Chris.
When my children, who are 36 and 39 years old, were little tackers, about that big, I took them to the Royal Show, and as parents do, and there was this bloke there with a cart, just a little cart with a little hood on it, a bunch of trees. And I sort of looked at him and walked past and stopped with the kids, and he was saying, you know, buy a tree, support the men of trees. And I thought, who are these men of trees? Well, he didn't stop staring, so I turned around and went back. Well, next thing I know, I'm a member of the Men of Trees, as is my darling wife Tina. And I came up to Barry and I said, well, I'm here, what do you want me to do? And he said, what are you doing on Arbor Day? It was a Tuesday, I think. And I said, oh, well, he said, can you get some time off work? And I said, sure I can, I work myself. He said, good, come along. He gave me a few trees and he said, you're going to this and this primary school, you're giving a talk on trees. And I said, what am I going to say? He said, well, here's the trees, you'll figure it out. He said, your heart will tell you. So I went to primary school and the first thing I found was 400 or 500 or whatever it was. It seemed like 1,000, but a few hundred little kids sitting cross-legged. The teacher introduced me and said, and then hundreds of little voices yelled out, good morning, Mr. Hayes, and nearly blew me backwards off the stage. And I realised that, well, there was a lot to do. So we gave the kids a tree and helped them plant it, and I went off around a few primary schools. And from then I realised, from that moment on, I stayed friends with Barry and the Men of Trees, and particularly in the Natural Resonance Association, where we did the spiritual, if you like, spiritual side, the rock dusts, little tree helpers, and did all sorts of other work apart from planting trees. And Barry started that, and all I can say is thank you very much, because it changed my life for the better.
Such a huge difference to our lives. But could I also mention Shirley Fife? Shirley Fife had heard Barry's talk, I think, and seen the television, had very much taken by it, and she bought this land. She paid the money for this land. I forget how many acres, do you remember? And she put the security fence around that inner portion where we kept our nursery. And Shirley and I used to come out here in those early days on our hands and knees. We put in the reticulation all across the inner nursery. And Shirley has died, but she was a very big part of Men of the Trees and a very great help to your father.
Following Yvonne Swindle's, is it Swindle? Yeah. Yvonne's recipe, we did that with Barry guiding us all the way there and getting the compost cooking. The students would come back and look at the smoke, you know, the steam coming out of the top. Oh my goodness. But Barry was a strong connection.
Some trees, and the net result of that was Frio became Forest Rescue and a few other things, alliances. But we as a body consider him instrumental in directing us in the right way to go. So I'm not representing Forest Rescue here as per se, but a lot of my friends are. I'm an unofficial representative, and I'd like to say thank you very much to Barry. Showing us the way.
Thank you.
Green Centre. I believe that the longest testament to Barry will be at Nambling. With Sally, Joe and Ruth, we went out just recently, and to see trees growing in the middle of a salt lake is magic. It's not just brilliant, it's magic. And I'd urge any of you who haven't been out there to go and really see trees growing in a salt lake. Now, if that can be expanded and more people can take that on gradually, there's a lot more hope for a lot of our country.
Doug, is that Nambling?
Did I say Nambling?
Narrabeen.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forget names.
Yeah.
Okay. Nambling, I'm sorry, Nambling, near Darren.
A very great deal to me to know that we are all friends together, and the things we've done together, and the things we've planted, trees we've planted together, the events we've been to together, and the work especially in this nursery. I think these oak trees are absolutely magic. I don't know how old they are now. What would you say? I don't know. I don't know how old they are.
They'll be 20
is that?
Or at least
oh,
20.
Oh, but you know, it's not usual in Western Australia to find English oak trees. You know, it's amazing, and I think that's just wonderful to have had that faith in planting and say, yeah, fine, yes, we'll put in some oak trees, you know, and here they are. You know, a testament to the trust that they would just grow and be there. So it's lovely that today that we're sitting under their shade and we're enjoying that confidence of those people who had pluck to put them in. So I think it's lovely. So I pay tribute to the people who planted the oak trees here because they're not easy trees to grow for Western Australia. We're a very dry country. And oaks are really English, you know, it rains all the time. So I think they're a miracle here. So I just love them. And they're cool shade, I hope. Well, people already sit under them anyway, so I don't have to invite you to sit under them when they're sitting. You can enjoy them any time. And it looks as though they'll go on happily. And having Barry's ashes there as well, it'll be, this particular tree will be doubly blessed because it has a spirit here as well. Because, well, spirits are everywhere. I believe that Barry's spirit is here. And it always will be here. Not today, not tomorrow, not 10 years' time, but forever. And long after we're gone, this tree will probably still be here. And I like to think of Barry's spirit still being here. The people who work here, the people who give their time to come here, and the people who enjoy the company of each other. And that's one of the greatest gifts of doing tree work, that people can work in company with one another, enjoy one another's company, talk together, get to know each other, and become familiar friends. So that's how the Men of the Trees work. So I thank you so much for coming today because it's very special to me and to my family that we have this memorial for Barry and his ashes being here. I feel his spirit is here, and you know, we go away happy.
That's good.
That's
Thank you.
amazing.
Thank you.
A long association, and I'm really I thought I'd sing that little song from Fay White, which tells the story that that Doug mentioned, which is the salt, and what Men of the Trees are doing about it. And that to me is the crux of the urgency for Western Australia, getting trees in the ground. So it goes like this. Well, we came from the farms of Europe, and we cleared the trees from the land. For the balance of bushland, rocks and rain, we did not understand. How could we have ever imagined, when we cut the forest down, that this would cause the water to rise from deep below the ground? You see, much of our land is porous land, and it lets the water in. And without the trees to stand between, too much rain soaks in, and an underground flood is rising, bringing salt up by degrees, and our land will turn into salty waste if we don't replace the trees. But we can halt the salt, help heal the land. We can plant trees with our own 2 hands. We can dig... Oh. Sorry?
The balance?
Yes, we can bring back the balance a little each year, till the soil is sweet again and all the river runs clear. Well, you can't drink salty water or grow food in salty soil, and it breaks your heart when the farms go broke and we see what the salt has spoiled. And we found now a task that we can do,